Okay, today's webinar is going to be on filling out your cybersecurity insurance questionnaire. Now, why would we do this? We're seeing a big increase in the number of questionnaires that are coming out to our clients, and also the difficulty that's involved in those questionnaires on what they need to be in there and how they need to be compliant. Essentially, the insurance companies are starting to crack down, and can't really blame them. They're probably getting tired of writing a bunch of checks to everybody, so they're cracking down on what the minimum requirements are. So what we're going to do is go through here on some of the key things that we see that you need to fill out. We're going to have some great samples and so forth for you that we're going to free handouts for you afterwards as well. But let's get into it, and we'll start going through the cybersecurity. All right. First thing to talk about is us. Who are we? We're Braver Technology. So we're a managed service provider up in the Massachusetts, Rhode Island area. We've been around for 30 years. We're amazing, incredibly friendly. This is me. I'm an amazingly handsome photo of me. This has got to be like 20 years ago or something like that. And essentially what we're doing is trying to keep all of our client base educated with these webinars on a regular basis and providing everything at free. Just basically, the more we can do across the board, the better our whole industry is. So, rising tide raises all ships. So essentially what we're going to cover here is, number one, the guidelines on filling out your cybersecurity insurance form. We're going to give you some guidelines on things that you can put in and how you can fill them in there. Next thing we're going to go over is some sample documents and templates that we're going to give you that you can utilize, that your insurance company is really going to like a lot when they see. And then next is just talk about protecting your company. The whole reason that the insurance company wants you to do this is that they want you to get protected. They want you to basically be prepared for any claim that's going to come down the road. Okay, so let's get into it. Why do I have to go through this? Well, the insurance companies are making you. Basically, they're going through all of their clients and saying, okay, what is my biggest exposure and how do I mitigate that exposure? You're going to pay higher rates if you don't have your security in order. If you don't have some of the basic tackling in place, you will have to pay higher rates, or you're going to come scrambling in last minute saying, hey, I need to get this done within the next 2 days, which is just not going to happen. Some of these things take a while. And like I said, the insurance companies they're tired of paying out money. So with that, first thing, when you see the questionnaire, number one thing, it might be obvious, but make sure you're accurate in the information that you're putting on the document. Essentially, whatever you put on that document is what they're going to hold you to. If you're telling them that you're doing two-factor authentication and you get a breach and they find out you're not doing two-factor authentication, they have a good grounds to kind of deny your claim and saying, I'm sorry, you falsified your information. So it might seem really obvious, but that's number one thing that we're seeing is make sure that you are accurate in there. Next thing we're going to go over is that different companies are going to have different size security budgets. So we get that, and the insurance companies get that as well. There's going to be questions on the security that are going to ask you, oh, do you have this and this and this? And we're going to look at you and say, no, you don't have that level, and that level is not appropriate for your company or your size. In order to get that, you're going to need a firewall that's $20,000. $20,000 firewall is not in your company's budget. So basically, it makes sense. They're sending out that same questionnaire to companies of all sizes. You want to have your questionnaire, you want to go with your response saying, okay, no, we do have this protection, but we have it at this level in here. So that's one thing to keep in mind, is that they're sending the same questionnaire out to multiple companies at multiple sizes. Not everything is going to fit what you're looking for. Next thing, you don't always have to use the word no. You don't always have to say, no, we don't have this. Some of the qualifiers that we'll put in place, that as long as they're relevant, are not at this time, or that's something that's planned for a future date, or that's just not applicable to what we're doing. A lot of times those look a lot better on the form, still saying the same exact thing, and the reality is you might have something that you don't have right now, but it literally is in the process of being implemented, so you can put that's planned for a future date. A lot of times what the insurance companies are looking for, and actually the compliance companies in general, they're looking for improvements. They're looking for what did you do to improve your scenario over what you had before. All right. Next one. This is probably the biggest one. Not having proper security in place will affect your insurance rates. Basically, if you don't have the key things that they're looking for, they are going to charge you more for insurance. What are those key things? Well, we've made this really easy for our clients. A lot of the basic key items that we have, we already show you on your security scorecard. It's right there in front of you. You want to have all these things in place. There's a reason that we give you this list on a regular basis to our clients, obviously. We give this to you so that you are prepared for this. These are the basic blocking and tackling. Some of these things don't even cost money to implement. They just require to be implemented. So that's what a lot of what your insurance company is going to be looking for as well. All right, next. A lot of the questions are going to be on processes and procedures. They're not going to be IT related specifically. They're going to be things that are, how are you handling things in your company? How do you, wire transfers is a big one. Do you have locked doors on your data center? What do you have for remote access? Do you have a remote access policy? Do you have a privileged access policy? Do you have an employee termination policy? So they're going to be looking for those type of documents. Those are the things that you want to start putting in order. Some of those we're going to have for you and we'll have available for you. You can reach out to us and we'll give you some templates if we have them. Like we have a remote access policy template that we can give you. But a lot of these, like a wire transfer, you're going to want to work with your bank on that one. We can't set that policy for you because it's going to depend on what your bank can do for you. But a lot of those questions, probably more than half of the questions, actually have to do with policies and procedures and not actual hardened security. Why did they do that? Well, because honestly, a lot of the breaches happen because of human error. They happen because of social engineering. They happen because of people, not because of the security. All right. Some questions are going to have more than one answer or can be interpreted differently. So there's a lot of questions in there that look like they weren't even written by IT people when we look at them. They don't necessarily make a lot of sense or they're just run-on sentences. So here's an existing one that it's just a bunch of stuff that's on the paper. So basically what we're going to do is answer the question. What do you do with a question like this? There's so much stuff in here. So one of the things that we do is we answer the question by putting down what we're doing. So instead of answering the question specifically line by line, saying no by no, what we'll do is we'll put down what you're actually doing. So for instance, here's a question in here, and it's going to say describe these policies, places, everything like that. Well, rather than get caught up in the question, we're going to put down is just what we do. Okay, email is provided by Office 365, which is maintained by Microsoft. All email access has two-factor authentication and advanced threat protection / Microsoft Defender enabled. We're going to answer the question with what is truthfully happening at the company, not necessarily trying to dig into the question that they have, which could be down a rabbit hole or may not be relevant. We want to give them something that is actually accurate for the company, that answers the question that we anticipate they really want to know. What are they really asking? Next one, acronyms. Oh my gosh, so you guys know our industry is full of acronyms, lots of verbiage, phrases, everything like that. So don't guess on those acronyms. If you see something and you don't understand, reach out to your carrier, your insurance carrier, and say, okay, they have all this stuff on here. I don't know what this means. I don't know what acronym this stands for or anything like that. Make sure you understand what they're asking you and what they're asking you. So again, you want to be able to answer truthfully. We've had times we put down the question, the carrier didn't even know. So the answer was, we don't understand the question. And that was literally the answer that we had to put in because somebody just wrote a question that didn't even make any sense. I'm sure it made sense to them when they filled it out. It certainly didn't make any sense to us when we looked at it. Okay, this is a big misnomer here. The insurance company is not looking for you to have a perfect score. They want you to be as perfect as possible, obviously, but no is an okay answer. If you don't have something, again, it's better to put in no than to lie. But they get it. That sometimes happens. No is an answer, and that could be a possible option. Next thing, this is kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't scenario. So basically, let's say you have some kind of issue that's potential issue. You've been notified that, hey, listen, we have a computer that looks like it has some kind of infection or breach or something on it. What do you do? When do you notify the insurance company? This would be a great question to have with your agent and carrier, because this is what will happen is that basically if you notify them that you've had some kind of issue, well, there's a good chance they're going to come back and raise your rate on it. So then your inclination is to not notify them. So then you don't notify them. Well, guess what? Now you're in breach of your contract, because basically they're saying you need to notify us of every incident that happens. And the reason they want you to notify them is that they're going to raise your rate. So it's a catch-22. So basically, if you have some kind of issue, you're going to have to decide on your own, does this make sense? Is this at the level where I want to bring it to my insurance carrier? Because if you bring it to them too late, they're going to say that you are behind the 8 ball. And sometimes if you're in a big enough scenario, the insurance company is actually going to be your asset in this one. They're going to bring in free resources that you can take advantage of to utilize and mitigate that problem or to research that problem. They're not always the enemy in this. They actually, you know, when it does happen, their team actually worked really, really well together, and they're going to give resources saying, okay, where did this go? Where did this data come from going through? And what did they, and these resources are going to be free as part of your insurance policy. Now, will it affect your next premium? Probably. It will. And that's where you have to make the decision, okay, when does it make sense to bring them in? But just make sure that you do at some point bring them in, because if you don't, they may not honor your claim that you had. Okay, so next thing I want to talk about is, okay, so new hires should all go through cybersecurity training. This is going to be a given on your questionnaire. They're going to be looking for you to go to cybersecurity training. Where can they go through cybersecurity training? Well, I am so glad you asked. Basically, they can go right up to the Braver Technology website. They can go into the resources in cybersecurity training. We have security training right there for your new hires and your current hires to go through at any point in time. All of our previous cybersecurity training videos are on there, along with our how to detect a phishing video, and then also how to set up two-factor authentication. It's a great, easy resource. It should be part of your onboarding process and part of your existing process for your existing staff. They should go through that training. Okay. Next, what are we going to give you? We got some free stuff for you. Basically, some of the things that your insurance company is going to love you to have is going to be in these documents right here. So essentially, what we have here that we are going to provide to you is somewhat a business continuity sample and template that you can utilize for yourself. First thing we're going to go over right here is the number one question that your insurance company asks is, what is your backup policy? We put down what the backup policy is for our typical client. Now, obviously, this is going to vary on your individual site, but we put down a document that already states this out in order to write it out so that when you send it to the insurance company, they're going to say, wow, these guys are on top of things. Given you have to, so this is a template that you can utilize to match the services that you have in place so that you can send this off to your insurance company. Again, this is a standard best practices that 99% of our clientele have already. So unless you've decided to opt out some of the policies that we offer, this one's going to do exactly what you want to do, and you're going to be able to give it to your provider. Next thing that we have for you is a security continuity planning checklist. So basically, what you can utilize this for is when you go with your insurance provider, you can actually say, hey, listen, we go through this planning checklist on a regular basis. What is our incident response team? How do we isolate sensitive data? All of these measures are what your insurance provider is looking for, and they're going to grade you higher because you have this continuity plan checklist in place. You can say, hey, yeah, we have this. We go through this on a regular basis. This is also a business impact analysis that you can go through. Basically, if you were to have an issue, how would it affect the organization, and how do you recover from it? So essentially what we put together is all the different scenarios of what could possibly, not all the scenarios, but the majority of the major scenarios that could happen How are you going to plan? How is your team going to organize and tabletop planning on these scenarios? Again, this is something that you want to have set up, and then once you have it, here's the framework. You can actually send it off to your provider. They're going to love it. Incident response checklist. This is another thing that what they're going to look for you. Do you have an incident response checklist? Well, now you have a sample of what you can use for an incident response checklist. You have all the makings of what it would take to say, okay, yes, this is what we're going to do. We're going to assess the damage. We're going to lock down. This is when we're going to call the lawyers, when we're going to call the help. They're looking for you to have this document. We wrote this up for you so you could use it as a template to write it in-house. All right, so the last thing that we have in here for free documents for you is we took the most common questions that are going to be asked on your cybersecurity insurance, the ones that we've seen multiple times from different carriers and different providers, and we put them down here so that you can utilize them and get ready for them. We went one step further from this. Further than this, we actually filled in sample answers for you. So if you're one of our clients and you're protected, chances are you're going to be able to use a lot of the answers that we have in here for you so that you can start filling this out ahead of time when you get it and start looking at it. So basically what we did is actually try and do as much of the legwork for you as we can so that you can start utilizing this on as soon as possible for your insurance carrier. Okay, so that is all the free samples that we have. So let's wrap this up. Essentially what we went through is the security challenges that you have, how to secure your network, and how to protect it. Having a secure workforce is the most important thing you can have right now. I can tell you that when you go through penetration testing and all the different aspects of it, what they're looking for is social engineering. They're looking for all those weaknesses that you can find, that they can find. And it happens to big companies, it happens to small companies. Size is not necessarily your protection anymore in this case. Your data is worth something and somebody's willing to go through the effort to get it. They're going to try and breach it. Make sure that you're going through the cybersecurity training that we offer. Make sure you go through the phishing. Make sure you go through all of those things. My name is Kenny Rounds, and I appreciate your time.